The moment my mechanic lowered my car from the lift, his face lost all color. He looked over both shoulders to make sure nobody was listening. Then he leaned close and whispered, "Do not drive this car home. Someone cut your brake line on purpose." Before I could ask another question, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my son saying, "Dad, hurry up and get home." In that moment, every memory from the past week came rushing back, and I realized this was much bigger than a broken car. I had trusted the same neighborhood mechanic for almost 20 years. He was not the kind of man who panicked. If anything, he was known for staying calm even when people walked into his garage convinced their engines had exploded. That morning, I only wanted a routine inspection because my brakes had felt slightly different during my drive to work. Nothing dramatic, nothing that made me think my life was in danger. The shop was busy with customers waiting for oil changes and tire rotations. My mechanic greeted me with a smile and told me it would only take about an hour. I grabbed a coffee from the diner across the street and waited. When I returned, the atmosphere had completely changed. He had already raised my car onto the lift. Instead of calling me over with his usual confidence, he stood underneath the vehicle staring silently at something near the rear wheel. His hands were shaking. When he noticed me watching, he climbed down slowly and asked everyone else in the garage to step outside for a few minutes. I had never seen him do anything like that before. He looked directly into my eyes. Someone did this intentionally. I laughed nervously because I thought he was joking. He did not smile. He pointed toward the damaged brake line. It had had a clean cut that could not have happened from normal driving. According to him, the damage looked fresh and deliberate. He told me if I had driven another 20 or 30 miles, there was a real chance the brakes would have failed completely. I felt cold. My first thought was that someone had tried to steal the car and damaged it by accident. He quietly shook his head. No thief would do this. Then he whispered words I will never forget. Think carefully about everyone who had access to your car. Before I could answer, my phone vibrated. The message came from my son. "Dad, hurry up and get home. We need to talk." Those simple words suddenly felt different. The previous week replayed inside my mind. My son had been acting strangely. He kept asking detailed questions about my insurance policy. He wanted to know whether I had updated my will. He even insisted I should finally sell my house because it was too large for one person. At the time, I believed he was simply worried about my future. Now every conversation felt suspicious. I asked my mechanic if he could be mistaken. He said he had repaired thousands of vehicles during his career and had seen accidental damage many times. This was not accidental. He advised me not to drive the vehicle until everything had been documented. He even suggested calling the police. I sat inside his office, trying to calm myself. Part of me wanted to believe there was another explanation. Maybe someone hated me. Maybe it was random vandalism. Maybe my son had nothing to do with any of this. But then I remembered something else. 3 nights earlier, my son had borrowed my spare garage key because he claimed he wanted to leave a birthday gift for me while I was at work. The gift never appeared. Instead, he returned the key the following morning and never mentioned it again. The mechanic finished replacing the damaged parts, but asked me to wait before leaving. He encouraged me to review any home security footage. I called a trusted neighbor who had cameras facing part of my driveway. He agreed to check immediately. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. His voice sounded uncertain. He told me someone had approached my car late at night. The video quality was poor, but the person's height, build, and clothing looked familiar. Very familiar. I asked him not to tell me over the phone. Instead, I drove home using another vehicle. When I arrived, my son was already waiting outside. He looked nervous, not worried. Nervous. He immediately asked why I had not driven my own car. That question caught my attention. I calmly replied that the mechanic found something unusual. For just a fraction of a second, the color disappeared from his face. Then he quickly smiled and asked what was wrong. Before answering, I invited him inside. My neighbor arrived a few minutes later carrying a copy of the security footage. We watched it together. The figure walked directly toward my vehicle without hesitation. The person knew exactly where to go. The face was never completely visible, but one detail stood out. The jacket. It matched the expensive jacket my son wore almost every day. He insisted it was only a coincidence. He claimed hundreds of people owned the same jacket. Maybe he was right. Maybe he was not. I decided not to accuse anyone without clear evidence. Instead, I contacted the police and handed over the damaged brake line, the repair records, and the security footage. The investigators thanked me for reporting everything. Instead of making assumptions, over the following weeks, They interviewed several people and collected additional evidence. What they eventually discovered surprised everyone. The person responsible was not trying to collect an inheritance. He had accumulated massive gambling debts and believed my life insurance payout would solve every financial problem. His plan failed because one experienced mechanic noticed a tiny detail that most people would never have seen. Without that inspection, I might never have made it home. The investigation changed our entire family forever. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. I learned that warning signs often appear long before disaster arrives, but we ignore them because we never expect betrayal from the people closest to us. I also learned the value of experienced professionals who refuse to stay silent when they discover something dangerous. One careful inspection saved my life. One quiet warning changed everything. Looking back, I still think about that whisper inside the garage. It was not loud. It was not dramatic, but it gave me the chance to live another day. If you ever notice small changes in your vehicle or someone you trust suddenly starts asking unusual questions, do not ignore your instincts. Sometimes survival depends on paying attention to the smallest detail. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share the story with your friends and family. Leave a comment telling us what you would have done in this situation.